On the latest edition of the Gav and Jules podcast, Borussia Dortmund's Thomas Delaney joined them, and he talked about the winning mentality that Bayern have.
The feeling of a team that even when they don't play good, they still win, and they know they're going to win. And we as a club and team lack that, because that only comes from winning. And of course, Bayern is now, they have correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 7 championships in a row, and you know that creates a mentality and a culture that just creates a crazy strong fundament for every game.
You're getting really close to winning that title to go further in the Champions League. And what was missing a bit, apart from maybe the mentality, as you said, of having that winning confidence?
Well, the biggest obstacle is Bayern, for sure. You know, we've played two decent seasons. Last year was for the most part amazing, and yet we didn't clutch it. But honestly, it's difficult to say what lacks. When I talk about experience, it's not about age. It's about knowing how to win, and that only comes from winning.
Well, let's welcome Shaka, Hislop and Stevie Nicol into the show to reflect on those comments. Stevie, I've got to start with you because it makes me think about that winning side, that winning mentality that your team of Liverpool in the 80s must have had.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Delaney's 100% right. It does only come with winning, but as a young player, it comes with playing with guys that have won before. So that if there was one thing I didn't like about what he said, I agreed with everything he said. The one thing I didn't like about what he said was actually admitting to it and basically saying that they don't know how to win. Now, you may think that, but you can't come out in the open and say that, because I think you're disrespecting everybody else. You know, if you talk to Haaland, he'll think he's a winner. He'll think that he can go and win every time he steps on the field. But when Delaney says that, every single time they're going to play against Bayern, it's going to be brought up. It's going to be thrown at them. And then every time they get beat, it's going to be thrown in the face again. Regardless of how well they play, if they lose, it'll be, well, you go into the game expecting to lose. So I agree with what he says. It only comes with winning or being in a winning culture, but you don't say it.
Too defeatist, Shaka, for you?
In a sense, yes, but the truth is he's just being honest. And I think he makes a point when saying that Bayern Munich have a culture of winning. And that culture of winning comes from a lot more than just who you're able to put out on the park. It comes from everybody in the boardroom, from the top all the way down to the tea lady, as they used to say in English football. That's what they do, week in, week out. Counter that with what I feel is Dortmund's culture, which is young, exciting, fast-paced, which gets you good results, gets you excited football, but ultimately doesn't get you the consistency that having that winning mentality and that winning structure does.
Did that make a difference in your Newcastle run, Shaq?
I think it did, ultimately in the end. And listen, it was a few weeks ago we were talking about the Keegan meltdown and the mind games that Alex Ferguson was able to play so successfully. He was able to do that because of who Manchester United were, how they'd done this previously, their experience in doing it. And for us, it was our first time in that kind of a scenario. And we just didn't know how to handle it. And then in the end, I think what also worked against Newcastle, certainly in the long run, is we didn't maintain what we had. We didn't build on good, we take things apart and put it back together again. But every successful team, every successful campaign or era is built on a little bit of heartbreak early on. You look at City and their struggles early on. Even if you want to look at Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp and their struggles, and look how good they are now, you have to endure that if you want to ultimately be successful.
We've obviously talked a lot about this game over the last few days, but maybe a point that we haven't really brought up It's just the fact that Bayern are richer and they can afford better players, Stevie. As much as you can put winning mentality, this, that and the other, surely just the fact of it is Bayern have got the biggest wage bill in Germany. They've built this squad of great world-class players, and that's it.
Well, it takes money to be able to go and bring in those players to start with, but when you can go and bring in a quality of player or a group of players and keep the base together for 4, 5, 6 years and keep adding to it, that's how you end up being Bayern. You know, Borussia Dortmund, it seems every couple of years are in transition. They've got new players, they sell players on. So it becomes almost impossible to build the kind of culture that Bayern have, because Bayern's not about wanting to go and sell players. Bayern are about bringing the best players in, keeping a real squad and a real base together for a number of years so that they can be successful every single year. Dortmund are not built that way, and when you're not built a certain way, then you shouldn't be surprised that you don't have a culture of just turning up and winning. And that's what Dortmund are. They're a team that changes too much too often, with the personnel in particular, and so with that then you'll have probably streaks, because that's what they do. They have streaks of brilliance, and then they drop off, and then they come again, and then they drop off. And whilst their model is what it is right now, that will continue to happen, and Bayern's, it will stay the same and keep winning.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.